Have you ever sat down, looked at your test, and had absolutely no idea what to do? Well, you're not alone, because I've done that so many times, I can't even count how many times I've done that. I know a lot of people that go through the same thing. Test anxiety is crazy popular among high school students and still here among college students as well. So hopefully I can teach you guys a little bit about how to avoid that in your next test, and hopefully you can do a little bit better than you would have if you hadn't watched this video. The first thing I always do whenever I have stress for anything, not even just test anxiety, but it's to think about my stress. Where is my stress coming from? For instance, if I'm looking down at this test and I'm like, oh man, like I have no idea what I'm gonna do, I like to think, okay, why am I stressed here? Is it because my parents are gonna get mad at me? Is it because if I get a bad grade on this test, I'm gonna fail the class? Is it because I'll get mad at myself because I put in so much time studying that if I get a bad grade on this, I'm gonna feel like terrible at school? I just try to think of where the stress comes from, and then I kind of break it down piece by piece and think about, okay, well, if I do get a bad grade on this test, here are a couple steps that I can take to, be better about it next time. Here are a couple steps I can take to look for a retake or for test corrections or any points that I can get back on this test. And I know it's kind of awkward, hearing that you should have a backup plan from an academics centered channel, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it happens. People get bad grades on tests all the time, and it's okay. Just think it through. You're gonna be okay no matter what, and just thinking about what you're gonna do if you do get a bad grade kind of can help relieve that stress sometimes. I'm not saying that you should rely on your backup. I'm not saying that you should rely on your backup plan, but it's definitely a good thing to have. After you've contemplated your own downfall and how you're going to avoid it, I would suggest studying. Literally just studying. If you're in the room, maybe it's a little late for this step, but hopefully you're watching this video before the test and you're able to give it some time and study. Because if you study and study and study so much so that you think you've covered all of the material in that class, then I guarantee you when you walk in there and sit down and look at that piece of paper, you're going to feel so much more confident about the information, and you're just going to cruise through that test. And even if you don't cruise through it and it's a super hard test, then you can really come out of that room saying, man, that was a really hard test, but I gave it everything I had. I studied forever, and I think I'm gonna do okay. Honestly, kind of relating back to the backup plan, if you do get a bad grade, you can at least have some defense saying, well, I studied so long for it, like it was still a hard test, like I didn't really know what to expect. Like that's a valid excuse, but you can't be like, oh, that was a hard test, but I didn't really study. So also on the topic of studying here, and I've discussed like a million different ways to study across my time here on this channel, but specifically for test anxiety, I would suggest doing a lot of practice tests, because this can really help you narrow in on what to expect during the test. Like especially if you get a practice test from the teacher, they're gonna make it similar to the actual test, right? My fridge just turned on. I'm super sorry about that. There's nothing I can do. You guys are gonna have to live with the annoying buzzing sound. Fridge aside, like I was saying, a practice test can really help you feel more confident, and it also allows you to be able to adapt more to what could be on a test, because you have time to practice the test, so you might as well just do it. Once you've studied enough for the test and once you've thought about your backup plan, it is time to move on to the positive mindset part of this video. Yes, it is the most annoying one to hear, but yes, it can be the most helpful. I promise you guys, a positive mindset will actually change the outcome of the test. Maybe not by like 10, 15 points, but maybe it'll help you get that extra point you need to get like the A to an A+ or B to A. When you walk into the room or when you are studying for the test, just have that mindset. Yeah, I'm gonna do okay on this test. I feel pretty good about this. Honestly, when you go through the test, you're gonna feel more confident. Just keep reminding yourself, I'm gonna do okay on this. I'm confident. I did the studying. I'm here right now and I'm gonna crush this test. And I promise you, you're gonna feel way more confident about the test. The anxiety is gonna maybe not go away all the way, but it's gonna kind of stay in the background as long as you're confident. Okay, people, this is time to lock in, because I'm gonna rapid fire some test strategies here for you. I'll make a separate video on this. Honestly, I think I already did. In case you didn't watch that video, which I'm guessing most of you didn't, I'm just gonna fire through a bunch of strategies that honestly have helped me a lot in the last few years, including on my AP tests, that also help to reduce test anxiety, and I think that they fit in perfectly with this video, so let's do it. Number one, I call it assess and regress. Just because it rhymes, I don't think regress really has anything to do with this strategy, but that's what I just call it because it's easy to remember. Essentially what this is you flip through the test and you look for all of the questions that you know you can answer, and then you filter through those questions for whatever you think is going to take you the longest amount of time, and you start with those big questions first. So you get those longer questions that you know for sure you can get out of the way. And this is a little tricky because there are going to be some questions that you don't know or that you're unsure of that you can probably figure out if you spend a long time on it, and those you should save for the end, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the strategy I'm discussing right now is just taking those questions that you are 100% sure that that you can get right and just knocking those out right away in the beginning. I don't care if there's one on the last page and on the first page and those are the only two. Do those and then work on the in between. But getting the questions done that you know, it's a good test taking strategy to save you some time, but also makes you feel more confident about the test. Okay, next tip here is skip and regress. Just kidding, regress is not part of that at all. Well, maybe it is if you stretch it a little bit. Essentially here, you're starting at the beginning. After you've assessed the entire thing and answered all of the easy questions, now you go through it and you look for any questions that you can answer and you start chipping away. And if you really don't know an answer, circle it, move on. Maybe you don't know the next one, circle that one, move on. And then when you're done with the test and you have extra time at the end, come back and knock those out. Number 3, take all the time you can. Go right until the buzzer, because I promise you guys, it genuinely helps you to quadruple check your test, because the amount of points, I think it was, what was it? 1 million points were lost last year on average per state for questions that were misread. So I'm just kidding. I completely made that up. But I mean, that's probably accurate. I'm not going to lie. Just make sure that you read the instructions all the way through. I just had a test the other week where I lost like 5 points because I didn't read the other half of the instructions. Like I read the first sentence and was like, oh yeah, I know this one. I mean, I still knew the answer if I'd read the whole question, but I didn't read the whole question, so I got it wrong. Just read the instructions and take your time double checking. Redo every problem. I promise you it's worth it. Number 4, this one is just something I like to throw in there. I call it iDino. That sounded way more funny on the script than it did saying it out loud. Pretty much, you just draw a dinosaur in the questions that you literally could not solve if you were given all the time in the world. And I mean, like, if you're going through, like, I don't know, math. I'm pretty bad at math. But like if I was going through math and I hit a problem with like a crazy quadratic or something that I just like couldn't be bothered to solve, even if I knew how to solve it, I would just draw a dinosaur and move on and hope that maybe the professor liked the dinosaur or somehow the dinosaur is the answer. I don't know. Draw something. It's kind of a fun way to go out, you know, like you have no idea what you're doing, so you just draw something fun. You laugh a little bit. It's a fun story to tell. Yeah, okay, I'm talking way too much about this. Hopefully these test anxiety reducing tips helped you guys out a little bit, or will help you out, I should say, with your future tests. So good luck on that. And if you have any questions about anything college or high school related at all, you know, admissions, test prep, study tips, anything at all, let me know down below. I'm happy to answer. You know, I'm pretty good at that. So, yep. All right. I'm going to stop talking now. I'll see you guys on the next one.